Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm back again, and I'm back with a requested deck that came up on the stream the other week. Don Andreas, the Renegade, 1 blue, black and red for a 4/3 Vampire Pirate. Interestingly, this is a bit though. Each creature you control but don't own gets +2/+2, has menace and death touch, becomes a pirate in addition to its other types. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell you don't own, you get a couple of tapped treasure tokens. Obviously, pirates do nick things. Don Andreas is strange though, because with the two abilities that I've just read out, I would have expected Don Andreas of having some way of stealing things from your opponents. But no, you have to get all the support cards in the deck if you want to build Andreas and Don Andreas as the commander. And then he sorts them out and pumps them up or gives you things. So you've got to nick other people's cards. Yeah, okay, we can still do this. It's still a bit of fun. So here we go. Here's what today's deck that's been requested, and my take on it really does look like. So, at the beginning, we have 3 Planeswalkers. We have the greatest thief in the multiverse, as he's been called multiple times by people who are a lot better known than I am. Dak Faden's here. Target player draws 2, discards 2 for +1, or you just nick an artifact. You can nick any artifact. If it's a creature, it'll get +2/+2 menace and death touch if you've got Don Andreas in play. So yeah, otherwise you're just stealing things. That's fine. Soul Ring is your usual target. Gedrona, the Dehire, is also in. I think I've just butchered that name appallingly, so apologies for that. 1 blue, black and red for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. Has protection from permanents with corruption counters on them, so that's good. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, and you get in for the +1, and then you get to put a corruption counter on up to 1 other target creature or Planeswalker. Okay, you put the corruption counter on the biggest threat on the board. Right, okay. -3. Gain control of target creature or Planeswalker until the end of turn. Untap it and put a corruption counter on it. It gains haste until the end of turn. Yeah, okay, I can live with that so far. Yep. -7. Gain control of each opponent with a corruption counter on it. Yeah. This is quite a nice way of stealing things. I think this is quite one of those Planeswalkers that could have had the little bit of text, can act as your commander at the bottom of the card, but it doesn't. So, yeah, not one you see very often, but it makes sense to have it in this deck where you want Don Andreas to nick other people's stuff to pump them all up. Obviously, the biggest thief that we get is Nico Bolas, Planeswalker. Going back to original land. +3, destroy target non-creature permanent. -2, gain control of target creature. -9, deal 7 damage to target player. That player discards 7 cards and sacrifices 7 permanents. You don't care about the -9. All you're interested in is the +3 and the -2. Thank you very much, Nico Bolas. You're expensive at 8 mana for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. But hey, he nicks things. We're going to go with it. Right, from there, we do have creatures. We do have quite a few rogues and pirates. So Impulsive Pilferer starts the game off. And then we have Tiny Bones. Because whenever Tiny Bones deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent from that player's graveyard. And spend any mana of any type to cast it. So you can nick one of their creatures they've discarded, or cycled, or something, or, you know, yeah. Anything really that's a permanent, hopefully a creature, but otherwise any other permanents could be useful. Dire Fleet Captain's in because we do have a lot of pirates, and whenever this attacks we get to put +1/+1 until the end of turn for each attacking pirate. Daredevil, Dire Fleet Daredevil's also in. We can nick someone's spell, cast it, and then get a couple of tap treasure tokens, assuming Don Andreas is in play. Nightscape Familiar just cuts the cost of all our other non-black spells down, and since we have a lot of them, made sense. Thieving Skydiver, just, you know, kicker, pay 1 most of the time in command and nick someone's soul ring. That's it, done. Thieving Varmint also comes in because, yeah, it's got Death Touch and Lifelink, which is nice on a 2/1, I'll be honest, for 2 mana. And then you can pay a life and add 2 mana of any one colour. Spend this mana only to cast spells you don't own. Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. Corsair Captain, when it enters the battlefield, you get a treasure token and pumps all our pirates up. Laughing Jasper Flint. At the beginning of your creatures you control but don't own are mercenaries. Okay, we'll just leave that there. Fine. But at the beginning of your upkeep, You get to exile the top X cards of target opponent's library, where X is the number of outlaws you control. Don't forget, all pirates are outlaws. Until the end of the turn, you may cast spells from among those cards, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. Works very nicely with Don Andreas. Very, very much so. Sailor of Means gives us a treasure. Admiral Beckett Brass, we needed the leader of the pirates here, pumps all our pirates up, and at the beginning of our end step, gain control of target non-land permanent controlled by a player who has dealt combat damage by 3 or more pirates this turn. If you've got someone who's got no creatures and you get in, you're going to upset them by nicking something good, probably. Captivating Crew just gives you the built-in let's do the threaten effect. Decadent Dragon in Expensive Taste. Expensive Taste is nice because you exile the top 2 cards of the target opponent's library face down, which is quite nice if you've seen them scry something to the top of the deck. That does tend to upset people, but bear it in mind. And then you get the dragon, and whenever it attacks, you get a treasure token. Okay, fine. Gem Cutter Buccaneer also comes in. When this or another pirate enters the battlefield under your control, you get a treasure token. Yep. And treasures you control are equipment in addition to other types. You can equip a pirate for 1 mana and give it +2/+0. Yeah, that bit I'm not so keen about. But pirates come into play giving me treasures. Yeah, I'm happy with that plan. Gissa, Glorious Resurrector, is also in because if a creature would die and opponent controls would die, exile it instead. And at the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gissa, Glorious Resurrector onto the battlefield under our control. They gain decay. Yeah, okay then. That's fine. I'm happy with that. Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, does the same thing. We go and target someone's player, get the top 4, play one of the 4 spells. That's cool. Gonti, other version of Gonti, the Night Minister, is also in. Whenever a player casts a spell they don't own, they get a treasure token. And whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller looks at the top card of that opponent's library and exiles it face down, and then they may play it. Gonti the Night Minister does tend to survive quite a lot. I think we can all see why. Hostage Taker is the traditional one. The pirate that comes in takes something off the board, then you can cast it as long as you've got the Hostage Taker in play. Ramirez Di Pietro the Pillager enters the battlefield. We lose 2, gain 2 treasures. Yeah, right then. And then whenever one or more pirates you control deal combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library, and you may cast it as long as it remains exiled. Hello, Don. Right. Reeve, the Tithe Extractor, is also in. Mainly because I quite like this one from the Foundation's Jumpstart set, but whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure, exile the top card, la-di-da-di-da. Another way of exiling people's spells and nicking them. Sorrow Temptation, you just nick a creature. Very easy to kill off the Sorrow Temptation, but it might get a blocker out of the way for you for a turn. Edward Kenway also appears. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each tapped assassin, pirate, or vehicle you control. And whenever a vehicle... There's no vehicles in the deck, don't need to worry about that bit. But yeah, at the beginning of your end step, you get a treasure token for each tapped assassin, pirate, or vehicle. Yeah, I'm really happy with the mana ramp Edward Kenway provides. Port Razor just gives you the additional combat step. Soren of the Lidless Eye also makes an appearance. Really gone to town with this one with Lord of the Rings today. Enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature, untap it, it gains haste. And then creatures you control get +2/+0 until the end of turn, and each opponent loses 2 life. Another way of getting that big blocker out of the way and turning it on the opponent you've stolen it from. Zara, a Renegade Recruiter, is also in. Attacks, look at defending player's hand. You may put a creature card from onto the battlefield under your control, taps and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control, and then bounce it back to their hand. That's fine, no issue. Kiga lets us nick something when it dies. Rakesha Debaser lets us nick lots of things from graveyards, especially if we encore it back. Zathia Guild Kingpin, we just do weird things with this, and this one's too long and too weirdly to do. But, yeah, you exile the card and you can spend a mini mana to cast it. Agent of Treachery is the traditional Thief creature. Avarox, the Mind Flail, isn't a creature unless you control 3 or more permanents you don't own. And at the beginning of your end step, exile the bottom card of each opponent's library face down. For as long as those cards remain exiled, you may look at them, cast them, la-di-da-di-da. We are nicking a lot of cards from people with some of our creatures. Brainstealer Dragon does a very similar thing. Exile the top card of each opponent's library at the beginning of our end step. And whenever a non-land permanent opponent controls enters the battlefield under your control, they lose life equal to its mana value. Yeah, the Brainstealer Dragon does tend to get killed very quickly. And then finally, Thieving Amalgam. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you manifest the top card of that player's library. We can turn it face up if we need to. And whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So, more ways of nicking things. Sorceries, lots of them. Blue Sun's Zenith to nick something. Well, Blue Sun's Twilight, sorry, to nick something. Same with Active Treason, Harness by Force. Jesse's Will, just to give us the ramp in the thing. One of the few game changers in the deck. Chain Reaction, Damnation, give us some board control. Involuntary Employment does the whole let's thieve something or threaten something, or Active Treason, whatever you want to call it, and get a treasure token. As does Lose Calm, does the same thing, but it just means it can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Mass Manipulation, you can nick as many things as you want for as much, well, 4 blue and XX. Difficult mana cost, but you know, 6 mana to get 1 thing, 8 mana to get 2, 12 mana to get, 10 mana to get 3, 12 mana to get 4. It's doable. Portent of Betrayal is also in. Gain control of target creature until the end of turn. Gets untap it, scry, haste. Yep, fine. Bribery, go and nick anything you want from anybody's great libraries to get their creatures. Blatant Thievery, for each opponent gain control of target permanent that player controls. Insurrection, just to make sure we can untap all our creatures and gain control of them until the end of turn, and they gain haste until the end of turn, so you can just cast this, nick everyone's creatures and Alpha Strike. Blasphemous Act, just to make sure we can control the board, and one of the other game changes, Expropriate. You probably won't get the extra turns. I would guess you would probably get the have this permanent, have this useless thing I no longer need. But yeah, you gotta try it out. The other game changer in the deck, Cyclonic Rift, to control the board. Ramp comes in the form from artifacts. We've got Soul Talisman, Elixir of Immortality to stuff everything back in when it goes pear-shaped, Soul Ring, Signet, one of each of the talismans. And then, because we are nicking people's things, we don't want to have them back. Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar, bit similar to yesterday's deck with Krathus, and then Portal to Phyrexia, because who doesn't want to make everyone sacrifice everything, then nick things from their graveyard. Frostcliff Siege is in, just so we can name Timir and go with the +1/+0 trample and haste for each of our creatures. Likewise, the Virtue of Persistence here, so we can nick things out of people's graveyards when we get there. And you know, a bit of targeted removal as a one-off and a gain in a couple of life. Lands, all of the selection of blue, black and red lands you would expect to see in a deck such as this. Because we could be drawing cards or be stuck with high casting cost things in our hand, we are going to play Reliquary Towers a day and Temple of the False God, just so we can get Don Andreas back when he gets killed off. And that's really it. Oh yeah, Herball's in here if you really want to know. I do want to point out that the Tainted lands, so Tainted Isle, Tainted Peak, there's one that's a forest and one that's the plains as well. If you're playing something with black in, they actually work really well, so keep them in mind. But that's it for now. That is my take on Don Andreas, the Renegade. Can't beat a bit of pirate fun and games every so often, and I'm not intending to with this today, so hope you've enjoyed today's video. I'll be back tomorrow with another one. Please, if you can, hit the subscribe button. There's 670 subscribers I record this, so thank you for all the people who've subscribed recently. I really do appreciate it. 330 to go to hit that magic 1,000 number, so I really do appreciate everyone who's actually joined over the last couple of weeks. It's been lovely to see, and I really do say thank you. But if you want to see me play Don Andreas, link down below to Twitch. Come and give me a follow there. You can see me play it when I'm streaming one night this week. But for now, take care, have a good one, and I'll be back tomorrow with an updated deck from something from Brothers War. So have a good one. See you later. Bye.